Well, good day. We're here today at the 5th Annual Blue Ridge Book Festival with one of our honored authors, Jay Erskine Leutze, who has written an outstanding book, Stand Up That Mountain. I'm a fan of Jay's, having read the book, and we're here to get to know more about him and how this book came to be. Jay, welcome.
Thank you, Bill.
Good to see you.
This is an honor. I'm excited that there's so much activity in the world of letters in Western North Carolina, and I think this book festival is it's growing, and that's exciting. People who are coming into the mountains and people who have been here for a long time have been looking for new ways to show appreciation for craft, and I include language as one of our native crafts in the mountains.
Absolutely. You have not always been a mountain resident. You were educated at the University of North Carolina.
Yes.
Went to the University of North Carolina School of Law. Tell us about what got you here.
Well, I grew up in Chapel Hill,
right,
and kept looking for reasons to go to school someplace else and could not find good enough reasons. So I stayed there and got my undergraduate degree and my law degree. But like a lot of people that you find in Western North Carolina, my grandparents and my great-grandparents had been coming to Western North Carolina in the summer since the 1890s. And while most of the members of my family lived somewhere else in the winter, in Chapel Hill, and some of them in Florida even, would ride the train to the Hendersonville Depot in the 1920s and 30s.
Wow.
And my family had a cabin up in Laurel Park on Echo Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Right here in this community. And so my mother felt like she was half mountain as a child, spent a lot of time here. And then when I was 5 years old, my parents threw me in the car with my brother and sister, and we went up to Avery County and we built a cabin, pretty rustic place up on the side of Big Yellow Mountain.
In 1999, you moved into that cabin?
Actually in 1994, I moved into that cabin full time. It was really designed as a summer place. It doesn't have any central heat or air conditioning, of course, but it was a summer cottage, and I tried to move in and turn it into a year-round place to live and write.
But you did not have any intention of being involved with the issue that this book is about?
None at all. I was very engaged, I would say, as a kid in the conservation movement as it existed at the time. In fact, Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, which is based in Asheville now, founded in Kingsport, had some of its earliest meetings in my parents' living room. We, being there in the Roan Highlands area, so close to the Bald on Big Yellow Mountain, which was one of the first acquisitions for conservation in the state by the Nature Conservancy and Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, there weren't too many places, too many tables to gather around, and so folks would make it up our gravel 2-mile-long road, if you could call it that, and sit around and have brainstorming sessions about how to keep all of the peaks in that part of the mountains from falling to development and ski resorts, which was the plan in the 1960s, was to convert a lot of those high elevation grassy balds into residential high-end development and ski resorts.
And my recollection of the book is that some of that was taking place when this larger issue developed that got you fully engaged. Why don't you tell us about the rock quarry operation that you were pulled into by some of the local folks up there?
Yeah, I like to say I was minding my own business, sitting at my desk with an electric typewriter, practicing the craft of writing fiction, trying to find my fictional voice, and started hearing trees falling on the other side of the valley. And not sure what exactly was going on, I did what we do in small towns. I asked at the post office. I asked our postmistress, Louise Buchanan, what was going on up on Bellevue Mountain. She said, "Honey, that's going to be the largest open pit mine in Western North Carolina. Ain't it great?" Well, I didn't think it was so great. I started hearing backup beepers, which I could hear in my bed from 2 miles away across the valley floor.
And at that point, it was a daytime only operation.
Sure.
The promise was that had it fully developed, it would have been 24/7, basically.
The mining lease for the Putnam Mine Tract was a 99-year lease.
Yes.
And permits in North Carolina are issued on a 10-year renewable basis. So we knew we were looking at years and years of Bellevue Mountain getting shorter and shorter.
With all that noise and water pollution, it was bound to be a part of that. And you got a late start, not through no fault of your own. This thing was rolling, the permits were in place.
You're exactly right.
And the people closest to that location came to you?
That's right. My phone rang one day and a very articulate woman said to me, the Mining Act of 1971 is being violated behind my house. And by that time I knew that the mine was coming in. I knew that the permits had been issued. I knew there was not anything that could be done to stop it. But when she said she had recorded violations of the Mining Act, I was intrigued and I wanted to know more. And so I said, I'd like to meet you and your aunt, who she referenced. And I had no idea at the time that she was a 14-year-old girl. And she was being homeschooled by her aunt and her uncle. And she is quite bright, and so she could finish her lessons in maybe a fraction of the time it might have taken any of the rest of us. That left her a lot of time for recording violations of the Mining Act.
And that recording included a lot of photographs, did it not?
It included photographs, it included video, it included her own interpretations of the Mining Act on her copy of the Mining Act that she printed out. And so she really handed me a treasure trove that became the basis of a case that we would then file.
As I recall, the access road ran right past their property?
Yeah, they actually, through a strange twist of fate, they lived on property owned by the mining company, and they rented it because the mine owner had to buy their tract of land from who they rented from prior in order to get access to the rock. And so the trucks rumbled right past their window as they were developing the site and as they were drilling into the side of the mountain, packing the holes with dynamite, blowing the face out of the mountain in anticipation of really getting the operation cranked up.
Describe, if you would, the proximity of this mountain that was going to go through a 99-year disappearing act, the proximity to one of the most beautiful sections of the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, so in those meetings at my parents' house, the cabin that I now live in, before that, in the 1960s, Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, as it existed at the time, which was as a committee of the Appalachian Trail Conference, started negotiating with a family, the Julian family from Kentucky, to purchase Hump Mountain. The reason we wanted to purchase Hump Mountain was because the Appalachian Trail at that time traveled along Highway 19E. It was not scenic, it was not even safe. So the idea was to move the trail up on tops of these mountains where you'd have a safe remove from the noise of Highway 19E, and incidentally, you'd be putting this national park unit in one of the most spectacular landscapes in the eastern United States. So after 14 years of negotiation, we succeeded in purchasing 1,800 acres on Hump Mountain, moved the Appalachian Trail to that location, and because it's an open grassy bald, you have a 360-degree view. It's just a remarkable place where you're looking at the New River headwaters, Mount Jefferson and the Grayson Highlands, Grandfather Mountain out front, Mount Mitchell to your south. It's quite a prospect. Bellevue Mountain, were you to walk the Appalachian Trail out the nose of Hump Mountain, you walked for 22 minutes at a normal walking pace right directly towards the quarry site at the end of that walk.
And yet there were many people who didn't believe that it was going to be that big a distraction, and you had to convince them to take hikes up to that mountain so that you could let them see with their own eyes.
One of the reasons it's a special place is it's hard to get to. So it's not overrun with people. You're not going to find any litter up on Hump Mountain. It's visited by serious hikers who are walking from Georgia to Maine and day hikers from the area who know what a gem it is. but it's very hard to get state officials to some of these remote places. And so the best we could do for a while was photographs. And to some, the photographs were compelling. To other people, they said, well, it can't look that bad.
Right.
You're using telephoto lenses. And what I would say to every one of them was, come with me.
Come with me.
Yeah, let's take a walk.
Yes.
If you won't believe the picture, and I don't blame you, come see it for yourself.
With all the permits in place, the regulators in Raleigh seemed, as I read the book, to be more on the side of the mining interests than they were on the side of conserving what was there. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, the Mining Act of North Carolina is like the Mining Act a lot of states have, or in federal law. It presupposes that mining is an essential industry, which it is. I live on a gravel road. I really don't have a personal interest in shutting down the mining industry, but I feel very strongly that heavy impact uses, high impact uses, we need to be very careful about where they go.
Yes.
And so the state maintained that they had conducted a process that had worked in the past to site operations safely, that could operate in concert with the things that surround them. And they had reason to believe that their process was a decent process. This case helped us find a piece of the Mining Act that could have been more clear.
Yes.
And that the piece in the Mining Act that this mining company exploited, I'll use that word, maybe intentionally, maybe by happenstance, the Mining Act wants you to notify the adjoining landowners to a mining site. And it wants to give those landowners that adjoin the site the right to speak in public. And that's a great process, because that's where you'll find out if next door there's a hospital and it just, through bureaucratic paperwork shuffling, nobody noticed there was a hospital next door,
right,
or a cemetery, or a daycare. And those are uses that are inconsistent with heavy mining, with fly rock and dynamite and explosions and dust and all these things.
Those public hearings never happened.
Well, as I started asking around how this permit got issued so close to the home of Ollie Cox, so close to the home of Faye Williams, so close to the Bellevue Mountain Baptist Church, and so close to the Appalachian National Scenic Trail, which we know is the AT, what I found was nobody had come to the public hearings to complain. When I tried to figure out why that was, it was because there were no public hearings.
Yes.
So for some reason, in this case alone, there were no notice letters to the adjoining landowners. And that gave us an opening.
One of those homeowners, as I recall, had her property essentially surrounded by this operation. And talk about the setback because of the...
Yes.
That was a fiction too. This mining operator, I grew quite a lot of dislike for in reading the book.
There was some creative reading of the Mining Act, I'll say that. But you really very quickly become an expert in something. I'd never heard of the Mining Act in 1971 before this came up, even though I have a law degree, had no interest in the mining industry before, didn't have any reason to. But what you learn is the way you find out if Faye Williams' house is next to that is you pull out the tax map and you look at who joins your boundary. Well, there's also a buffer rule requirement in the Mining Act. This mining company drew its buffer line inside its property line and then said, because of the buffer, we don't actually join anybody. So they sent a notice letter to their own subsidiary, a paving company owned by the same guy that owned the mining company, and to the county manager. And the county manager wanted a mining company operating in his county and did not ask for public hearings, so no one else had an opportunity.
And if I recall, one of the county commissioners owned a rock hauling trucking line.
Yeah.
So it was just...
The person that presided at the county commission meetings where they passed resolutions unanimously in favor of the Putnam mine getting its permit and keeping its permit was a gravel hauler. So,
cozy.
Yes,
nice.
yes, small county.
Through it all, as I read the book, I was conscious that you had days when things were looking good and lots of days when things were not looking so good. And I was taken by how you kept most, although not all, of your allies on the team without having them just give up saying, Jay, this is going nowhere. I'm gone. I'm taking
Yeah.
my few dollars with me.
Yeah.
You put a few dollars into this effort yourself.
Sure.
Although you didn't have a whole lot, as I recall,
Yeah.
to spare. But
I'd been living in the woods for a while, writing fiction that wasn't going anywhere, and as I soon found out, the glamorous life of the unpublished novelist, it's not a very lucrative enterprise, writing unpublishable books. So my neighbors and I, we all dug as deep as we were able to,
Right.
hired an attorney, and then quickly, thank goodness, engaged Southern Environmental Law Center, which is a nonprofit law firm that defends groups with legitimate environmental claims that have the power to set precedent.
yes,
And so that was their interest in closing any loophole that was found in the Mining Act. So we were able to raise $60,000 in private money to pay two attorneys, two remarkable attorneys that are local to Western North Carolina, Forrest Farrell from Hickory, who is a retired Superior Court judge, and Ron Howell from Burnsville, who was a retired Superior Court judge. He's now passed away. But then we had...
well, and at that rate, for the hours that they put in, a lot of that was pro bono.
They loved this case. I will say that they loved this case. They enjoyed working with the Southern Environmental Law Center, who did a lot of the drafting for free. But we all fell in love with Ollie and Ashley and
Yes.
their claims, and Faye Williams' claim, and our partners at the Appalachian Trail Conservancy and the National Parks Conservation Association. And I know a lot of lawyers become attached to their cases, but I would quiz Trip Van Oppen from Southern Environmental Law Center, and it was important to me. I'd say, you don't have any case that's more interesting than this one, do you? And he would say, I can assure you I don't.
Yeah.
It was a fascinating
In fact,
case.
this case would have to go down in the annals of North Carolina mining law as probably one of the most important cases ever.
This case set a powerful precedent, not only in mining law, but environmental law and environmental regulatory law overall. And that precedent was the state of North Carolina not only possesses the authority to correct mistakes it makes once it finds them, it has the duty to correct mistakes when it finds them. Now, there may be some economic cost to that, but I will say the state of North Carolina in this case did a good job of trying to settle this case with money for the outlay the mining company made for a variety of reasons, which are complicated. But the state bent over backwards to be fair to this mining company, and this mining company could not help itself. They were convinced they were going to win a thumping, resounding legal victory in court. And I think we were sort of gnats buzzing around
yes.
to them, annoying them, and we made it our life's work to prevail.
Tell us how many years, because it was years to get this thing resolved.
It was 4.5 years in court, all the way up to the North Carolina Supreme Court. This case went. And 2 weeks in, you don't have any idea that it's going to change your life and take a large chunk of your time on this earth to get to a resolution. But yeah, it's a long haul.
Are you still writing or attempting to write fiction?
I am attempting to write fiction. I wrote during the case. I think writing fiction is something I'll always tinker with. And so, yeah, I'm still writing. I'm also interested in writing more nonfiction.
Okay. And yet these land conservancy issues have become a bigger part of your life. You're highly sought after as a resource, are you not?
Well, that's a nice way of putting it. Yeah, I have been really fortunate that the connection between buying that piece of land in 1981 that then became so treasured to hikers and bird watchers and just people who are looking for the few last quiet places we have in a busy growing region, the power of purchasing that land, I realized, is something that I wanted to be more involved in the future. And that's what I do now with Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy. I buy land to buffer the Appalachian Trail and the Blue Ridge Parkway. Our land trust buys land at Mount Mitchell State Park, conveys it to the state of North Carolina. A lot of people don't realize Mount Mitchell State Park, our first state park in North Carolina, is not finished. There are still several private inholdings within the park. And I didn't know that that was a job until this case wrapped up, and volunteer work that I had been doing for Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy and the Nature Conservancy turned into another chapter in my career.
And a worthy career it is. It's interesting to me how sometimes folks end up in careers that are more worth pursuing, but they end up there essentially by accident, or they're drawn to them somehow, and it just snowballs, and all of a sudden.
I think it's a good point, and one of the side benefits of having the book out and have the book draw some attention is I get to talk to young people a lot. I've taught this year at Davidson and Sewanee and Lynchburg College, and there's several colleges and universities that are using the book as a text. And I love to tell them, the college students and the high school students I've been working with, my career path to inspire them, because I was doing this work as a volunteer. Yes. And then it became a career, and they couldn't leave the lights on long enough for me. It's I have an intern right now that's working with me, and he was wondering if he could leave a little bit early on Friday to get his weekend started, and I thought, as an intern, you expect a weekend off? This is not work. This is fun. This is getting out in the woods, and we bought a waterfall, a 110-foot waterfall in November, and to stand at that place. And I had somebody visiting from California and said, in California, this would be a national park. How can a private individual own a waterfall? And I said, you know, in this landscape, because we were settled a long time ago.
Oh, yes.
And subdivision of land being as it is, in our critical landscapes, we still have a lot of privately held land. A lot of those are fantastic stewards of precious resources. But when the funds are available and when the landowner is willing to sell, if it's in an identified conservation area, that's a great time to add it to public ownership so that more people can enjoy it.
Well, as a native of West Virginia, I have to tell you, where mountaintop mining has flattened the state.
Yes.
I was so glad that did not play out in the course of Stand Up the Mountain.
Well, thank you.
Stand Up That Mountain.
We're blessed not to have coal in North Carolina.
Yes, we are. Yes,
if we
are.
did, I do not have enormous confidence that we would handle it better than West Virginia has.
I don't either, and we don't have shale rock either. So.
A lot of the fracking debate will happen to our east in North Carolina, east of the mountains. And but I tell you what, if you travel to our coast, or if you spend time in the sandhills and you want a glass of clean water, you're a party to those disputes as well. I think we all are.
In Avery County and up that way, you must be something of a local legend. How do you live with that? That fame?
You know, I think every writer dreams of whatever book they're working on being successful, and I certainly did dream of that. But what means a lot to me is going to the post office and seeing Edwina Tatum, who's a local school teacher, and Edwina saying to me, Jay, thank you for preserving the way mountain people talk. She said, as a school teacher, I had to grade students' papers down when they talked mountain in their papers. She said, but in your book, even if we all were to stop speaking that way tomorrow, you've portrayed accurately the way that we speak.
And yet you did that in a way that did not demean or diminish those people. I really appreciated that about that book. It was, you weren't making fun of them in any way.
I think there's a genius that I worry about losing, a genius in language in places that are less touched maybe by the suburban sprawl that a lot of places are experiencing, and the constant television watching and all of that. And these pockets, when I was a kid up in Avery County and Dogtown and Cranberry Gap and Gooseneck and Lick Log, you got a little bit of television signal and people would watch Johnny Wood give the weather on the Johnson City television station. That was it for television. And So a lot of the accents and a lot of the idioms are in place in the mountains, and I think it's ingenious. There's a delight in storytelling. There's a delight in humor. And if that did not come through in the book, I will have failed.
It
because
came through.
that language is distinct and it's special, and we should be proud of it. And Ollie, one of the main characters in the book, who raised Ashley, this 14-year-old girl, Ollie said at one point, well, you just made me sound like a hillbilly at one point. And I said, well, you're just a hillbilly. And she said, oh, you're right. So we've had fun with it. I said, Ollie, you've noticed that you and I speak differently. She said, I can't pronounce any of them 10-letter Jay Erskine words you keep throwing my way. So we both have our culture and our language, and I think both are important.
I certainly agree with that. The other thing that was so important to me, I've read environmental and conservancy books before. Most of them seem to be written by people who came along later, and people who in their writing are critical of the reader for not seeing the obvious need to go out and save the world. You saved one mountain and you lived it as you later wrote about it. And that makes your book, I think, so unique and so special.
Well, thanks, Bill. I feel I've read a lot of those books as well, and it's always been an interest of mine. And I felt while this case was unfolding in my life,
yes,
and around my dinner table and with my nieces and nephews, that at a certain point I felt a responsibility, being inside the case, to tell what happened. Because this case on its own is entertaining.
Yes, it is.
It's got drama in it. I knew
High
that.
drama. High drama.
High drama unfolding. And, but I felt that it was bigger than that. And that this is happening, fracking, for example, hydraulic fracturing to extract natural gas,
yes,
from shale. For example, this is impacting people in their backyards now. And once the case was really in high gear, I started getting calls from other people worried about their backyards, and I wanted to tell their story as well through this one.
You certainly told it well. You told it well in Stand Up That Mountain. Jay Erskine Leutze, I highly recommend this book to you, and we're so delighted that you were able to join us. I know you've got to leave here earlier this afternoon sometime, drive to Washington on a rainy day. Good luck with that, but thank you again.
Thank you, Bill.